Hello guys, this is Mega881000 again, and I have a kinda preview video about another Resin Model Kit figure which I purchased already back in 2016, which is still in work, and this video is, how I said, a kinda preview as the first, and also can be seen as a kinda making of, in which I will tell you some things about making this figure. This Resin Model Kit is kinda similar to those which I made some years ago, about which I also made several making of video parts. Actually, I made a whole video series about the making of those two. In case if you've seen those videos and remember on them a bit, they were about those Resin Model Kits of OmegaMon X and Greymon X, which were also unofficial Resin Model Kit figures, as well as this one here is. This is made by KHZONE, or whatever you pronounce this name. Well, this could be also such a kind of made by a design studio, but from this, just let me call it brand. For now, you can find quite a bunch of such Resin Model Kits called KHZONE. But how I said, I don't know if you can call this brand or is it a design studio. Well, yes, and I will tell you some things about the making of. That was the box which you could seen the whole time already now, and this was how it looked when you opened it. And yes, something else ahead. In case you are wondering that this video is now back in this style, please keep in mind, as I said, the majority of those pictures are from 2016, where I logically didn't have my new video style, so I can't show you this not in my new on-camera style, but only in this form with update images about this whole process. Yes, here you have the instruction sheet, and you had those two pictures, and you see the joints lying here already on top. I don't want to talk so much about those details so much. Here are other parts with the instructions. Again, a picture of the joint connections. Here you can see the single parts. They were all packed in foil bags. More pictures of the packed parts. Below were the parts for the wings packed, and here we have a similar picture of the packed parts again. Everything was also very wild and very simple packed, if I can call this like this. And as I said, below the parts for the wings and the sword were lying without being packed in any foil bag. By the way, it is a model kit of Shine Greymon, for those of you who couldn't figure it out, but that you could already seen in the pictures, and it was also kinda printed on the box. And well, this is my setup to do the pre-works on the parts, just like I wrote it into these videos from that time. The ones for these two Resin Model Kit figures of Greymon X and OmegaMon X. There is a lot of pre-work to be done on such Resin Model Kit parts. For this I used this kinda electric hand grinder for hobby needs again, which you can see here. First, of course, I roughly cut off the larger residues with a nipper for plastic. because, as I said, there are production residues everywhere on these parts, but on this one there wasn't quite as much residues as it was in contrary with these other two kits. On ShineGreymon's parts there weren't so much residues of this amount, because his parts are generally larger and therefore there are also less parts, also with larger but less residues. Nevertheless, you have to get rid of those residues through post-processing. It's not an official Bandai model kit where you simply break the parts out of the frames and rework the parts if necessary by sanding them a bit, and then you put them together and you are done. But here on those unofficial resin kits are a bunch of more pre-works to do. And here we have again an image of the packed parts. Though they were packed in different foil bags I honestly can't remember this very well anymore. How I said, it's been a long time when I started the works in 2016. Then several things came in the way, so I couldn't work on it any further. Even painting wise, as I said, it's still in the works. By the way, I will show you these other pictures. I can also tell you something about the joints. This time the right joint connection pieces were packed and they were already assembled, and there were also only those right sized joint connection pieces packed that you also only need for this kit, not like with the other two kits. If you know the videos, there were several such whole packs of random joint connections included, where you first had to figure out which one you actually need for these two figures. There are also some left over, or were left over, that you don't even need for those two kits back then. And you had to assemble them yourself. These were already assembled, and well, yes, with ShineGreymon's kit here you only had to look for the right joint for the matching or fitting body part, but that was just a lot easier here. Well, here we have some pictures of the sword and the wing pieces again. Here are the parts out of the foil bags that I laid down to see how it all comes together. And here you can see these residues on all those parts, for example on the thighs. And you have these rectangular flags, or these flat sticking out thingies on those wing front sides. These are the residues that you have to remove before you can start any other works. Here we have the two photographs again, which should serve as an instruction sheet as well. The instruction sheet you've seen already. Also, this I can show you a bit better on camera again. Well, with this image my pre-works are starting. And here they are finished already. Again, here you can see a part of the removed residue that was roughly all of the residue which was on the parts. Then I put all the parts overnight in gently soapy water again to wash off the last residues from post-processing, like I did with the other parts. of the other two back then. After that, I let the parts dry nicely, and then slowly the first assembly works began. Here I had already primed the parts. That gray coat is a primer. Also glued some parts together where I thought that would be better for the later painting. That now are the pictures about the gluing of some different parts. One of the tips of the side horns was broken as well, so I glued it back on. Well, the two halves of the wings had to be glued together by each wing. On that wing something was broken off as well, which you can see here. This is the still bright looking section of this crystal on the wing front, which section has no gray primer coating. The hind section of the tail was also broken into pieces, which I also had to fix. It already came broken. This is the way it was, and that are just resin parts which breaking easily. Well, again, some pics about the pre-gluing of some parts. Then I have already tried to figure out the right joint sizes for the respective matching body parts and tried it out a bit. But as I said, everything was much easier here than it was in contrary with the assembly of these two other resin model kits back then. The drilled holes also fitted here, and everything actually fitted quite well together. Yes, and these are the pictures for the adjustment and the rough test assembly, which I made a little more extensive this time, or spent more time for this, because if you can remember this test before, I spent not so much time for testing it, and after all the parts are were finished and finished the painting, I had to figure out that everything doesn't fit together. All the holes, the pre-drilled holes, didn't match to the joints and so on. Yeah, and that was a problem. And not to ending up again like this, like I ended up with the other two back then. I just spent more time to testing this. And here are some more pictures about the adjustment and assembly with the joints to figure out if everything fitted or not. As I said, I spent more time on testing this, not to end up like I described before. So just a rough assembly to test it. Here he is almost completely assembled, roughly. He also has parts you can swap. Here he has the sword with the one integrated hand, but you can also attach the extra clenched fist, so he doesn't have the sword, but that are options for displaying the figure. And here I started with the further priming process. Don't remember anymore if I done 1 or 2 coats of primer, but I think I did 2 coats of primer. Here you can see the primer and it is the same one which I used for the other two figures back then. Could still use that primer, and it was just enough for this figure. Here some close-ups of the parts with the primer on. As well as with all the parts again. Of course I had to disassemble everything again. And here we have the first pictures about the paint progress, about the first steps I done for the painting. Like you can see, this then continues to take shape and form. There are always again some close-ups of the current up-to-date paint progress at that time. I think here the pictures speaking for themselves, just adding more and more paint apps. There are always several layers of paint needed, excuse me please, because that doesn't cover with the first layer, and you always need at least 3 paint layers. I also only use brushes so far. At first I focused on painting these dark red stripes or those recessed molded sections on all the parts, because to go a more logically way with the painting process. Here I added some black paint apps for those parts already. How I said, my main focus was on painting those recessed molded details, because there is less risk of painting over again if you then paint the more raised molded details after, than if you would do it the opposite way. This was what I meant before with painting it in a logical way. Though painting over still happens, of course, which you have to fix again after, which is also clear. And here I added further paint apps and also layers for the details I already painted with one coat. Well, I also added the iron-like color for the head and helmet. The head was finished at first, so to speak. Here I added the paint apps for the iron-like colored details on the shoulder armor parts, and those paint apps in the same color for the upper body details. Added further paint apps for the tail ring. Well, like I said, those pictures speaking for themselves, I think. Just added more and more paint apps, like you can imagine, and how the pictures are showing it. That's the neck. And here we have the colors I used for it. That big pot of paint is that darker red, just couldn't find the same color in a bit smaller pot, if you are wondering, so I had to buy that big one. This, I think, was the best matching color for me. It is also very difficult to find the matching and right colors which coming closest to those of the original character design colors, because I prefer to buy the colors in real shops to see how the colors looking in real, so I can buy the matching colors and adjust different type of colors to get all the colors together which are the closest I can get and need for painting the parts. The medium-sized colored classes are acrylic colors, and the two in the front you can see for yourself are such model kit paints from Revel. All of those colors working, these Revel colors are paint colors, and also in general paint colors, of course, cover a little better than acrylic colors, which then need several layers of paint because they are water based. This large paint pot is also acrylic paint. And here are the brushes which I partially used for painting. The different brush sizes, so to speak. And so we are going on with the further pictures of the paint progress. Just starting with the white paint apps, with the first paint layer for those different parts. Here I added the paint apps for the spikes of the tail ring. Further paint apps for the upper body and for the sword as well. At first I only had these central recessed molded details outlined with this red, but I did some research for the look of the sword and how it looked in the anime and decided to paint all of those details in the middle with this red color completely and not only those recessed lines of it. First I had them painted like this, like I described before, but I changed it after. Now here we have the pictures about fixing the broken tail pieces. Here you can see it. I just tried to drill a hole in both of the parts and used a wire to be able to connect the broken pieces together again by adjusting the length of the wire until the two parts fitted perfectly together with having no larger gap between the two tail pieces, and it worked just fine. Also here you can see the tools which I used. The quality of those pictures are sadly not as good, but how I said, it has been some years ago and now I have a better camera, you know. Well, this was almost the end state of the head. Just forgot to paint the white detail, the lower jaw section, so to speak. And here are the further update pictures for the further paint progress, where I added more and more paint apps and layers on the parts. Here you can see the fixed assembled tail piece. You even hardly can see anymore that it was once broken. Have to admit that I've done a very good job in fixing this broken tail piece. Yeah, but well. And this was the other side of the sword, I think. Added further paint apps and refinements for the hands. We are slowly getting closer to the end pictures about the paint progress at this state. Also some of the parts and sections of those I just left out at first. For example, those which have to be colored with the slider red color. How I said, I added more and more paint apps on those different parts, as well as further layers of paint that everything got covered until everything got covered. Well, now I begin to add some gold color for the sword. Again, added further paint apps and layers on the parts. Yeah, and I think the colors, the pictures speaking for themselves, excuse me please. That's almost the end state. And that's slowly the end state of the process. I wanted to say, added the other red color or paint apps on the parts for the first time, which were still uncolored. That's almost the end state of the current look of the parts back then when I started to work again on them. How I said, I added the other red color on those parts and the sections which have to be painted with this color, like for example the still missing sections of the upper body. The first time for the other red color for the wings as well. Again for the sword, with the integrated sword holding hand on the sword hilt. The wings again. I believe that was the almost end state of the finished parts. Yes, these are the pictures of the end state of the current state back then. Of course, there were still some unpainted sections which I still had to paint, like the soles of his feet. Also some repair work for overpainted sections, and where still some paint layers were missing. That are almost really the pictures of the end state. Yes, and here are further pictures about adding some more paint layers of this other red color, also for the wings. Just keep in mind that you have to paint both sides, but you only can do one side, because the other one you need to hold and lay down on the unpainted side, so you only can do it step by step. Now you see some better quality pictures as well, shot with better cameras. Well, and here we have again some paint progress update pictures for adding further paint layers. That's how I said, almost the end state. Just added the paint apps of the other side of the wings, which sections were still unpainted. Yeah. With the other red, or also firstly with the other darker red for those sections of the other side of the wings. Imagine this is much work to do if you have to do it that way for each side of the wing, and you also have two wings. Also the wings and the upper body part were the parts where I did the less or even non-paint apps before. And here I starting to detail the eyes, which I also left out until this point. Well, you have actually those printed eyes on that little sheet, which you can cut out and glue on, but those printed eyes just missing some details and are also wrong colored. Those printed eyes I can show you on camera again, but here I detailed the lower eye section with some blue color at first. ShineGreymon's eyes has to have such a blue section down there and should has a orange iris, black pupils and also some white spots. And this was just the first layer for this blue section of the eyes, the first try. Here I added the first paint layer for those blue details, which still missed paint on the wings and on the details of the upper body. Here I tried the small white section for the eyes, again some tries. Also further pics about further layers of paint for those details. Well, and again back to detailing the eyes, where I used such a warning label sticker which had the right colors, from which I made my own eye stickers for the rest of the unpainted eye sections, which you see at next. Cut it out such a small strip from this orange colored section of that warning label sticker, cut it until I got the right form and size to use it for detailing the iris of ShineGreymon's eyes. The pictures are about the first tries, because I needed some until I got the perfect piece which fitted to the blue and white colored eye sections. Also had to do some corrections with that white colored section, because it not fitted right to my cutted out orange sticker on one side. I think it was this one, so I had to overpaint it later with the blue again to make it looking good and fitting to my sticker. And here are the end result, and now here comes the thing with the pupils. I took a punch pliers and tried to punch out such small round stickers from these black printed details of this warning label sticker, which I cut it in the middle, and by having more tries, by adjusting and make them fitting further to the other eye details, I had my black stickers for the pupils as well done. Also done the white details in a similar way, just cut it those even smaller than the pupils, and after I cut it and had the almost right size and fitting for all those details, I had my complete eye stickers created. So to speak, I made my own custom model kit eye stickers to use them for ShineGreymon's eyes. And here are the tools which I used for making them. It was really a very fiddly work, but the result I think is nothing to sneeze at. And those next pictures really showing almost the current state. Added those white paint apps for the triangular symbols on each of the wings front. This was the first layer. Also they are still missing some paint apps on some details. Here I removed my created eye stickers again because how I said I had to do this paint rework to get those white lower sections smaller by painting it a bit over with the blue color again. And those pictures now finally showing the current state and how the parts are looking at the moment. Here I started to paint the gold ring of this blue crystal, but I stopped because I wanted to wait until the red color details dried nicely, because I done this in one step. Because to paint the golden rings you need to hold the wings way better in your hand and to have a better grip for painting them. Again some close-ups for my current last works on it, and with that we are done with this kinda making of and preview video with this kind of first look on this unofficial ShineGreymon Resin Model Kit Figure. I hope you liked this whole journey. Don't have a clue how long I talked about for now. Well, over 30 minutes though. Well, how I said, I think I will do an update video again when all the parts are fully finished to show you the parts better and on camera. Let's see when this happens. Until then, for now and about the ShineGreymon figure, hope you liked the video, would be happy about a thumbs up, and in case you like my channel, so subscribe to it. I am out for now, goodbye guys, your Mega 88 1000.